The housing sector in Kenya plays a pivotal role in the country's economic growth. During a forum held in Kenya's capital highlighting relevant issues pertaining to the development of formal rental housing markets, experts say that access to housing remains a daunting challenge as rental housing seems to be shoved aside in housing policies.
We believe that there's been too much focus around this myth of home ownership. And it's time that we really challenge that, because we know for sure that the numbers show that most of the Kenyans, most of Africans actually do not own homes. They are renting. So it's about time we discuss rental housing, and that's why we organized this conference. We brought in all the key stakeholders, both from the public as well as from the private sector. We've also brought in multilateral organizations to actually discuss rental housing, because we think it's the right time to do it.
I think home ownership is the ultimate dream, but I think reality does begin to set in, particularly when you look at the mortgage market, you look at the mortgage rates, you look at what it takes to become a homeowner. The fact that most likely have to be employed, and for them to track your income and to assess how much you'll be able to repay on a monthly basis. Now, if you're in self-employment, it's more difficult to track. So I think the fact that there's so many self-employed in a market where also interest rates are high, it does become a dream.
The country's formal rental sector warrants greater attention as properly developed rental markets will play a crucial role in promoting affordable housing.
We need to create a situation whereby the landlord and the tenant are both protected, because they both have their rights, and we can't only focus on the tenants, we need to focus on both. By then doing that, we will inevitably create a situation whereby investors, the private sector, will have more confidence in investing in rental houses. As you do that, you increase the supply. So we want to create a legal environment, the contracts I mentioned. We want to create a fiscal tax environment that attracts capital, long-term capital, into rental houses. We want to create hygienic transport infrastructure around rental houses. All this overall environment will inevitably force the informal rental sector to emerge into a really formal sector, and that will inevitably at least contribute to the gap that we have today.
We need to look at more options, maybe a rent-to-own option. And developers getting into that sort of a structure where they offer people an option to rent the house for a certain period of time, and once their incomes are able to match the purchase price, they can then go into an ownership. But the moment it's one or the other, and I think what this conference is looking at is there a middle ground to be able to get more people into a segment where maybe they rent for a certain period of time and then they own ultimately.
The forum that brought together key stakeholders in the housing sector saw for the first time people speaking out in favor of renting.
Rental housing offers a very accessible, affordable alternative if some conditions are met. Now, we observe not only in Africa but in many parts of the world that policies have a tendency to be mono-tenure, which I say, focusing only on home ownership, forgetting that some parts of the population are not capable to afford to become homeowners. And data colleagues and UN Habitat are collecting is showing that only a very minor parcel of the urban African population can afford the minimum housing that is produced in the market.
I think it's infrastructure. I think we need a lot of infrastructure. We need to move out of the CBD. We need to give more options. And I think what needs to happen is government needs to look very, very seriously about the road structure, provision of power, and also to support developers such as ourselves.
As it is, 85% of urban dwellers in Kenya are tenants. The country's average rental for property has gone from about 38,000 Kenya shillings in December 2000 to 120,000 in June 2014.
If you have rental accommodation spread in the city with all the regulatory framework that secure rights of tenants and landlords, you will boast in the existing stock an enormous supply of housing alternatives, because there is a huge vacant stock that people are not using.
A housing price index is set to be launched this year to help policymakers take a broader view of changes in the economy to assist investors in managing risk. The country currently has no independent tool for tracking real estate prices.